Hey guys. This is part 4 of What If Naruto Faked His Death. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 14. The Insurmountable Peaks. Point 3. It's good to see you are awake and well, Tsunade-sama, Kakashi said honestly. Secretly, the copycat was hoping he could hand the title of Hokage back to the bus to Senju. Tsunade nodded from her bed in the hospital. Sakura and Shizen had decided that it was in her best interest to stay in the hospital until they could run some tests to be sure that the Godame Hokage was indeed in full health. Well, it would be nice to leave soon. I have work that I need to do, Kakashi. Or should I say Rokodame-sama, Tsunade replied. Kakashi smiled and rubbed the back of his head in mild embarrassment. You heard about that, huh? To be honest, I would be happy to retire and hand the hat back over to you. You're a better suited Hokage than I am. Nonsense. I just got free of the damn thing, although you are not the person that I expected to be wearing the hat after the war. Even if Naruto was only a genin, there was not a person in the elemental nations that could lay a finger on him. He proved that when Eidano tried to prevent him joining the war, and he more than proved himself on the battlefield. Tsunade said. The newly elected Hokage nodded in agreement. Yes, he certainly was the catalyst behind winning the war, and you are right, he would be standing where I am now as Hokage if he had survived the fight with Sasuke. He admitted bitterly. Once more failing to protect someone he cared about was like adding another dagger into a heart that had long since stopped beating. I don't believe it. Tsunade spoke calmly. Don't believe what? I don't believe that he is dead. I can't explain it, but I just have this feeling that he is still out there somewhere. She answered calmly. I know what you mean. Even though I have seen the body and it has been examined, something just doesn't feel right. But if he was alive, then why would he leave? Kakashi questioned. It had been a thought that had ran through the copycat's mind at least once a day ever since they had found Naruto and Sasuke's bodies. He let out a sigh and walked over to the window to gaze out over the village. Everything the Hokage could see was new, all the buildings that now rose high around him inside a large crater that had been created less than a year ago, when the man known as Pain had crushed the previous Konoha with a single jutsu. I want to assess Naruto's body for myself. Then I might be able to answer your question, Tsunade said from her bed. I'll grant you access first thing in the morning. Or should I say, the moment you are released from your apprentice's care. Kakashi said without looking back at the large-chested Senju princess. Has there been anything else odd that has happened since Naruto was supposedly killed? Tsunade asked. Kakashi thought about it for a moment. Then he remembered something. Now that you mention it, yes, all the toads have vanished from Konoha. Perhaps Katsuyu might know something, but we haven't found any toads, summonable or otherwise. The Rokodame replied. Why would they disappear? When Jiraiya was killed there were toads everywhere. This is just getting more and more suspicious as far as I'm concerned, Tsunade said and quickly ran through a set of hand seals, slamming her hands onto her bedside table. A puff of smoke followed, and when it cleared, a small pale slug appeared. Tsunadeheim, it is good to see you have recovered. I was very worried this time, the slug said with a distinctly feminine voice. Good to see you as well, Katsuyu. Sorry I had to summon you in your small form. Tsunade replied. Think nothing of it, Heim. Was there something that you needed? The slug asked curiously. I was wondering if you had any idea why the toads have withdrawn from the forests around Konoha? Tsunade questioned. I have not heard from the toads in several months now. They are being very secretive, from what I would guess. If they are not around Konoha, then they must have all retreated back to Myobokuzen. Katsuyu answered calmly. Something is certainly not right. Things will become more clear when I can examine the body. Tsunade mused. Even if you are right and Naruto is alive, he would have had a reason for going into hiding. Maybe it would be best to leave him be. He has earned that right after all he has done for us. Kakashi reasoned. No way, he deserves one hell of an ass kicking for lying to everyone. Tsunade said half seriously. Kakashi laughed knowing that Tsunade wasn't serious. Well, I really hope you are right. With how strong Naruto was, it just doesn't seem possible that he could have lost. The silver-haired copycat sighed. Well, I was unconscious for most of the war after the fight with Madara, but I did see Naruto easily avoid having his clone dispelled by the Madara's Susanoo. There is no way Sasuke could have become stronger than Madara in such a short time. Tsunade stated. I agree, it does seem highly unlikely. But it is what the great Toad Sage saw happening. Kakashi said with a hint of reservation. He knew it wasn't a good idea to get his hopes up. The old toad can be misinterpreted, It was only after Naruto's fight with pain that he realized that it was both Naruto and Nagato were the children supposed to lead this world to peace. Not until Nagato gave up his life and supported Naruto did he truly become their destined child. It is possible that what the Toad Sage saw was Naruto's choice, Tsunade said firmly. It makes sense, I suppose, but it still doesn't explain the body we have in the morgue waiting for the funeral. Kakashi sighed. Tsunade nodded solemnly, and let her head rest back on the pillows of her hospital. Maybe not, and I know it's a long shot. But my gut tells me Naruto is still alive somewhere. He wouldn't give up if it was one of us, so I won't give up on him, she declared. You're right, he wouldn't. I'll make sure you have access to Naruto's body by tomorrow morning, Kakashi said, and the next moment he was gone, jumping out of the window. The next day, Naruto and Karin had woken late. The morning had been so cold that neither wanted to move. But eventually, thanks to Kurama's pestering, the blonde had stirred, and the smell of an impending breakfast had finally persuaded Karin to get out of bed and join him. It's freezing. I swear it's even colder than it was last night, Karin said, shivering slightly as she took a seat next to Naruto in the tent as he heated some powdered soup in a saucepan over a small camping stove, while several pieces of what would be the last of their fresh bread were toasting in a separate pan with some eggs. The small source of heat from the flames was a welcome feeling, even though it barely helped the pair. I thought soup might be nice to warm us up a bit. We probably won't get far today because we slept in, but staying put because it's cold will be counterproductive. Chances are it won't be getting much warmer than this for a while, so we should just do our best and push on while we can, the blonde said as enthusiastically as he could manage. Yeah, I guess you're right. I don't know why, but I guess I thought things would be a little easier than this, Karin admitted. Yeah, I know what you mean. I guess I should have known better considering that they are called the insurmountable peaks. But I never thought it would be this difficult. Naruto agreed with a sympathetic smile. Maybe we should head for the lower ground. It will take us longer to reach our destination, but the terrain should be easier to deal with. It should also be easier to find a place to set up camp if we are at a lower altitude on the mountains, the red-haired scientist theorized. That might be a good idea. I was never one for that type of thing. I just pushed through with whatever I needed to do head on, the blonde replied. Sounds a little bit like Sasuke. He seemed to think he was invincible as well. He paid for it in the end. You need to think things through more, Karin lectured. You sound just like Kakashi-sensei. I suck at making plans. I prefer to just think up a plan as I fight. Naruto chuckled, while the fond memory of him being manhandled by Kakashi during his genin exam ran through his head, courtesy of Kurama, who had decided to show what can happen if you run into a situation unprepared. Maybe I could do with being a bit more level-headed though. Maybe you can help me with that. I mean, you must be really smart if Orochimaru team used you as a scientist. Karin blushed slightly from the praise. She was so unused to being treated as an equal that she found even this small amount of support to be somewhat embarrassing. I guess I'm sort of intelligent, but I don't really know what I could teach you. I was never much of a fighter. That doesn't matter. In fact, it's even better. All I know how to do is fight. I was born to be a shinobi, all Jinchuriki are. But you have the chance for a better life, away from simply being muscle for hire. I bet when we get over these mountains there will be tons of things you can do. All I will be good for is maybe a hunter, Naruto replied. Once more Karin blushed. You are overselling my talents. But thank you, she said with a small genuine smile. She's cute when she smiles, Naruto thought. He ignored Kyuubi's derisive grunt as the steam coming from his soup indicated that their breakfast was ready. Alright, eat up, we're going to need our energy, he said while serving up 2 equal servings and handing the slightly larger portion to the kunoichi. Soup isn't really a breakfast food, but I have to say it is doing its job warming me up, Karin said, slightly surprised. If it was cold in the tent, then outside was absolutely freezing. When the 2 teens finally exited their small refuge from the weather, they were met with winds that flung the snow off the ground and stung their faces. It felt like hundreds of small blades were digging into the skin. Naruto did his best to ignore the pain and packed up the tent, while Karin produced a thick scarf from her backpack and wrapped it around her neck and face to dull the force of the wind. This wind is so powerful, it's almost like a futon jutsu, Naruto complained once he had the tent packed away. Karin attempted to reply, but her voice was muffled by the thick fabric she was using as a mask, much to the amusement of the blonde Jinchuriki. I don't know what's funnier, the way you look or the way you sound, he said, muffling a laugh. Not wanting to speak again, knowing Naruto wouldn't understand her anyway, the red-headed teen responded by grabbing a fistful of snow and sending it slamming right into the blonde's face. It was then her turn to break out in laughter, even if it was barely audible. That's uncool. If we didn't have to get moving, I would so get you back for that. Naruto replied with some mild annoyance. Karin just continued laughing as she ran past the Jinchuriki as he removed the remaining snow from around his face. Hey, get back here! He called out, chasing after the kunoichi. This day's travel was proving to be every bit as treacherous as the day before. They both had to have chakra channeling to their feet almost constantly, because at any moment the ground would give way, and they would need something firm to kick off from back to safe firm land. They had crossed several large gullies and it wasn't even mid-afternoon. On the plus side, they had started to pick up the pace. Working together as a team, the natural obstacle course that the mountains would throw up became little more than minor inconveniences. At this rate, we will end up covering more ground today than we did in the past few combined, Naruto said happily as he helped Karin over a large ice wall. What he hadn't expected was for another voice to respond. Is that so, young one? Naruto and Karin both spun around and came face to face with a giant snow leopard, not as large as one of the Bijou or even Gamabunta, but perhaps half the size of the boss toad. Wow, you're huge, Naruto said in awe. He wasn't all that surprised to see such a large animal, but he thought maybe if he could get on its good side they might help them travel through the mountains. Gamabunta, and all of the toads for that matter, were no good in these mountains because they were cold-blooded. Congratulations, you have a firm grasp of the obvious, Baka. The large feline scoffed. Hey, I'm not a Baka. Nico team. Naruto replied angrily. Don't insult it, it's 10 times our size. Karin yelled, freeing her mouth from the scarf. You should listen to the female, you'll live longer. Yes, she's really smart, but you shouldn't be so full of yourself. Naruto retorted. Karin cringed at her traveling companion's words. Now why did you have to say that? All you are going to do is make him mad. I'm sorry about my friend, he's a little slow. Are you seriously telling me you are okay with him referring to you as the female? Besides, he's going to attack us anyway. He's leaking out enough killing intent to take out a jounin. Naruto retorted. I'm not feeling in. You're blocking it with your chakra. Karin gasped. The female appears to be slower than I first thought. Still, none of that matters now. The large snow leopard sighed. The cat took a large yet very brisk swipe at the pair. Naruto was more than ready, however, and jumped back, grabbing Karin on his way. Damn, I was hoping to keep it talking for a few more seconds. I'm still short of chakra for Sage mode. He sighed while creating 5 clones. 2 of them moved into a meditative seated position, while the one other helped him form a Rasengan. I really need to learn how to do this without clones. Well, once we are out of danger and I find a place to settle down, I can work on it, he thought. Wordlessly, he ordered the 3 unoccupied clones to rush in at the leopard one at a time. The first clone was cleaned up by a massive paw, something that the second easily avoided. However, it was not able to avoid a massive spike of ice, similar to the ones he and Karin had been navigating, that the feline shot from its mouth. This is a pointless game. Stop sending these stupid clones at me and fight for yourself, Hayatan, just like Hockey used. What is this thing? Oh well, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. I just need it out of the way or we're toast. Naruto thought while his third clone made its move and he used the distraction to sneak around behind it. His clone easily slipped under the giant paw, then spun out of the way of the Hayatan jutsu. It reached the giant cat's front paws before the creature's fur stuck up and shot out in a hail of saman-like spikes. The memory had stunned Naruto for a few seconds. He had seen someone use a technique that was so similar it was scary. Jiraiya's needle Jizo with his hair manipulation techniques was almost exactly the same. But for that reason Naruto knew the weakness. From behind, Naruto jumped high up in the air, careful to avoid making a sound, the Rasengan in his hand still spinning. His descent started over the back of the large creature. His target was the back of the neck. Nice try, human. The leopard laughed before its tail slapped the blonde away. Naruto created a few clones in mid-air to steady him and cushion his fall. Damn it, why do I always forget about tails? It may be, and this is just a theory, because you are an idiot? Kurama suggested. Very funny. Now, do you have any suggestions on defeating this guy? He asked. I don't see what the big deal is. You were able to defeat me and this creature is nothing compared to me. The fox replied casually. This is a little different. I knew what to expect from you. This thing is far calmer than you were at the time. I doubt it will lose its temper so easily. Naruto said with a sigh. Then make it lose its temper. You should be able to defeat it easily with that sage mode of yours. And we should be far enough away from civilization that using my chakra won't be sensed anymore if you get into a tough situation. The QB answered calmly. I know, but I don't really want to rely on either you or sage mode for my strength. I need to be strong in my own right as well. Naruto said. Well, that's something to work towards when you are not facing a 25-foot-long deranged cat that would like nothing better than to rip you limb from limb. Kurama scoffed. He reminds me of you. Naruto joked, but he had made up his mind and agreed with the fox. He would become strong without his sage mode and bijou cloak, but first he needed to survive this encounter. His clone dispelled at the same moment that the snow leopard found him. Its paw came down and snow was flown everywhere. Karin almost had a heart attack as she thought Naruto had been crushed. No, you can't be gone like that. Don't leave me as well, I need you, she thought desperately. Her thoughts were forgotten a second later, however, as Naruto appeared off to the side of the large cat. His eyes changes to gold with bar-like pupils and dark markings formed around his eyes. Senjutsu, you know sage arts? The leopard gasped in shock. Damn right I do. Naruto said boldly, creating a swarm of clones, each pair creating a Rasengan. Now eat this, he yelled as all his clones rushed forward, the Rasengan in each clone's hand swelling in size. Never-ending Nudama Rasengan barrage, he yelled as clone after clone flew at the beast. The swarm of clones were dispelled in large groups, not able to avoid the large leopard's many defenses, but several still broke through. Finally, when he came close enough, the feline's hairs once more shot out, trying to turn the clones into pincushions. Unfortunately, Naruto had seen that Jiraiya's hair jutsu so many times in the past, his remaining clones all knew how to avoid them. Thrusting their arms forward, they used the giant Rasengan each held as a shield. The hair needles crashed against the jutsu and were thrown elsewhere. The cat could only watch with a shocked expression as the few surviving clones each hit the target with their Rasengan. The leopard was thrown away with the force, crashing into a gully. Karin was stunned. This was the first time she had seen Naruto fight seriously, and she was starting to understand just how he was able to defeat Sasuke. He had just defeated that giant creature with only 2 jutsu. He barely lifted a finger himself. He hadn't even broken a sweat. Although she wondered if that was just because of how cold it was, his sweat would simply freeze. That was amazing, Naruto. But if you didn't antagonize him in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. Her mood swinging from joyful to angry in a matter of seconds. No, this isn't over yet. If it was, I doubt the others would be just sitting there, Naruto said flatly. Others, you mean there are more of them? Naruto nodded his answer. See for yourself, 2 up on each ridge that are about the same size, and a 5th one heading this way. So worst case scenario, we're facing 6, but the other seems to be just watching for now, he said as the large leopard he had struck with his jutsu began to stir. Karin closed her eyes and focused on searching for the other creatures that Naruto had mentioned. He was right on each side of the shallow valley they had been using for shelter, and an easy path there were 2 more snow leopards. This isn't good, I can't fight against something like that. This is just like when that rapping Hachibi Jinchuriki transformed, we were all helpless, she thought desperately. But Naruto is standing there waiting for anything that they throw at him. Amazing. Man, what an idiot. He should be trying to run or negotiate. Lucky Hidgaki, but you haven't won yet. The injured leopard spat angrily. Small patches of burnt skin shone through his white fur, and Naruto could tell he was walking with a limp. You should give up before things get any more serious. I don't want to hurt you. That goes for the other watching the fight as well, Naruto yelled, making sure he was loud enough for the others to hear him. Hell, looks like we've been found out. I guess that's to be expected from a sage, even if it is a goofy-looking one. A foreign voice replied, and an instant later 4 large snow leopards each landed beside the injured one. The kid's tough, but I think he might be a little overconfident, don't you think? Another said in a feminine voice. Yeah, let's show this punk why we don't allow anyone to trespass on our mountain, the first to talk said. Naruto stood still, waiting patiently while he topped up his nature chakra. He only had 1 more clone to dispel to enter sage mode once this ran out, so he needed to be efficient. He still had his ace in the hole, but he thought that it may be a little excessive, even if he was facing 5 giant cats. In one movement all 5 of the leopards moved, 2 spread out wide in hopes of getting behind the blonde, while 2 others shot forward looking like they would run straight through Naruto then keep going. Meanwhile, the injured leopard was moving up to higher ground. Naruto created several clones that he sent to deal with 3 of the 4 giant cats. Meanwhile, he moved to intercept one of the 2 that was charging at him. A paw came down to crush him as it came within range, but he rolled out of the way. A quick burst of chakra to his feet, and he was behind the snow cat in an instant, with a firm grip of its tail. With his senjutsu-enhanced strength, he stopped the feline's movements before tossing the creature over his shoulder. The beast let out a terrifying screech that sounded like a rusty kunai scraping against the chalkboard of the academy, only 10 times as loud. So it turns out you don't like having your tails pulled, Still, you're less of a hassle than another cat I could mention, Naruto said, thinking about Tora, the bane of Konoha Genin. His clones were not having as easy a time as he had, but were still coping with their targets. From her hiding place, Karin could hardly believe her eyes. Naruto was in complete control, and he hadn't even used his bijou cloak yet. The truth was, after sparring with Kurama for so long, he was used to fighting oversized animals that could crush him with a single hit. Naruto watched as his clones successfully subdued their targets. Then his attention turned to the last leopard. It had climbed a fair way up the mountainside. It was faster than he had thought even while injured. Once it saw that the others had been defeated, it turned to face Naruto. Opening its mouth, it shot forth a massive series of ice pillars that expanded as they fell towards him. I can't escape that like this. Even if I could, something that large would crush Karin as well, he realized while creating two clones. Acting as quickly as he could, Naruto began channeling chakra into his palm while one clone handled the rotation and the other handled elemental manipulation. Futon, Raisin Shuriken, the blonde yelled as he tossed the disc-like projectile. He can throw something like that. Karin gasped in surprise. The Raisin Shuriken struck the giant slabs of ice and exploded, ripping the leopard's jutsu to shreds. I can't let him use that jutsu again. I guess I have no choice, Naruto said as his sage mode faded. A massive burst of chakra followed, and when the dust from the explosion of ice and wind passed, the blonde stood with his body coated in bright yellow flame-like chakra and black seal markings that spread across his body. What is that? The leopard asked in awe. Before he could blink, Naruto was behind him. You don't need to know, Naruto said before kicking the giant cat down into the gully to join its brothers. Naruto landed on the ground in the middle of where each leopard was trying to stand before he wrapped each of the up in his chakra arms, pinning them to the ground. Now do you want to tell me why you attacked us? He asked. We're just doing our duty. These mountains are sacred. Nobody is allowed to pass this point, one of the leopards said as it attempted to stand under the crushing pressure of Naruto's chakra arms. So you're a summon clan. You protect your lands from outsiders, just like the toads and Myobokuzen. You can't reach there unless you are a summoner, even if you know the way. You would meet several of the battle toads to deny entrance, Naruto said calmly. Very astute of you, young sage, a new voice said calmly. Turning to the source, Naruto saw a new snow leopard almost twice the size of the others, rivaling Gamabunta in height, only slightly smaller than Kurama. Unlike the others, this new arrival showed no hostility towards the blonde. We have been expecting you. Our elder has foreseen your coming. They will not attempt to harm you anymore, she added in a commanding tone. Naruto smirked and released his bijou cloak. You say your elder saw me coming. What did they see exactly? The elder saw the arrival of a man who would bring balance and correct our mistakes of the past, and a young woman who would be the first to take up our contract. Nobody has made it this far north in almost 100 years. The last man to pass our test was not worthy of signing the contract. Your companion, however, is, as you cannot. You have the smell of toads. We do not share summoners, and I am sure the Toad clan has similar feelings, the large leopard explained. You have one hell of a test. Naruto sighed, looking at the 5 other summons. Karin picked this moment to come out of hiding. Does that mean you are willing to help us get through these mountains? She asked hopefully. No, if you desire to go to the northern lands, then that is a test you must pass on your own. But we will take you in and give you shelter until you decide to venture forth. Now, child of destiny, the elder of the leopard clan wishes to speak to you. I sure hope they are more right in the head than the great toad sage. If not, this meeting could take forever. Naruto mumbled lightly so that only Karin could hear, or so he thought. I assure you that the elder is very capable. On another note, you girl, what is your name? Karin. The redhead answered quickly. Very well, Karin, I am Unico, the matriarch of the Snow Leopard clan. I look forward to working with you in the future if you agree to sign our summoning contract. Now both of you get on. There is still a fair way to travel before we get to our ancestral home, the newly named Unico said, leaning down to let Naruto and Karin onto her back. They breezed past mountain tops like they were not even there. What would have taken days, even weeks to travel, only took a few hours on the back of the giant feline. Yet despite this, the mountains continued to appear in the distance. Man, imagine how easy this would be if we just had the big boss cat take us to the other side of the mountains. Naruto sighed. True, but you heard what she said, it's a path we must travel alone. Just enjoy the small shortcut while you can, Kurama said lazily. All too soon the giant cat stopped, coming to a halt in front of the largest cave Naruto had ever seen. The ground outside the entrance was flat, and Naruto guessed it was about the size of Konoha. Inside you will find warmth and shelter for a few nights. Let's not keep the elder waiting, he is anxious to meet you both, Yuniko said calmly before moving towards the cave entrance. Chapter 15. The Leopards in the Hollow Mountain. Naruto looked around in awe as Yuniko, the matriarch of the Snow Leopard Summon clan, took them deeper into the mountain cave. Regardless of how deep they were underground, strangely there was still light, almost like the ice walls were glowing to greet the leopard's home. Another rather obvious thing Naruto was noticing was that the temperature was increasing rapidly. Naruto was already feeling stuffy in his large thermal jacket and pants. We are almost to the village. Be ready because the temperature is quite drastically different to what you have experienced outside. We snow leopards may be in our element in the cold and snow, but we love nothing more than a warm place to sleep, Yuniko said as the path took a steep decline. They came out in a large stone cave, a massive open area that rose high up with what looked like smaller caves that had been turned into homes scattered around the edges. The sizes would descend, with the largest leopards living on the bottom level and growing smaller as they go up until there were small holes only big enough for a cub right at the top. A large river of steaming water traveled through the middle of the giant cave, lit by crystals that bathed the giant open area in a bright blue glow. Both Naruto and Karin were bug-eyed at the sight. Snow leopards of every size lay around from place to place, a few sending the two shinobi lazy stares. There's so many of them, certainly more than the Toad clan, Naruto thought in wonderment. Kami, it's hot in here, Karin complained, gripping the neck of her jacket trying to let more air in. Naruto simply unzipped his jacket and stored it away in his backpack, Karin eventually deciding to do the same. Yes, the underground village is heated by hot springs. Each individual leopard's cave has their own hot spring for warmth and a bath to suit the leopard's size. We will prepare a cave for your stay once we meet with the elder, the giant snow leopard explained. It said a lot about the sheer size of the place that Yuniko was barely tall enough to reach a quarter of the way to the top if she was standing on her hind legs. So where does this elder live? Naruto asked in his usual brash manner. The elder has a private chamber at the far end of this hall. We will be there momentarily, the large leopard answered. When they arrived at the far end of the hall, two large passageways curled in either direction, leading up to the caves that littered the walls. In between them, a larger path led down further underground, where a dull red glow could be seen and the heat radiating from below was intense. The elder lives down here, Yuniko stated as they crossed into the new cave leading down. The path curled around, the walls seemed to reflect even the dullest light to illuminate their path. It opened out into a thin hall of jet black stone, that glowed with a red tint that came from a thin creek of lava. The room felt like a sauna. Steam was rising from small cracks in the floor. At the far end of the hall, Naruto was surprised to see a large stone house with intricately carved statues of large leopards lining the pathway. The entrance was of course large enough for even the biggest of the leopards to enter. As they approached, a regular-sized leopard came out to greet them. You brought them, Yuniko-sama? The new feline asked in a deep masculine voice. Despite not having the commanding power of the massive leopard before him, it held a sense of authority. Of course I did, Nemeu. Is he ready to see them? Yuniko asked. The now named Nemeu nodded once. He is, but he desires to speak with them one at a time. He has things to discuss in private, and a summoning contract to hand out to the girl. Please send in the young sage. Naruto, guessing that he meant him, jumped off Yuniko's back, landing in front of the much smaller cat. You mean me, right? He asked. This is the boy? He doesn't look like much. Maybe Elder-sama is getting a little too old. I see nothing special about him, Nemeu said dispassionately. A tick mark formed upon Naruto's head. Being looked down upon was always a pet peeve of the blonde. Yuniko laughed but soon became serious. He defeated the mountain guardians at the Eastern Pass, with ease I might add. Nobody has done that since. Very well, you may enter, boy. Nemeu interrupted the larger feline much to her annoyance. Yet she let it go for now. Naruto just shrugged and walked past the smaller leopard while mumbling something about being talked down to by a fur ball. You act as if that doesn't happen all the time, Kurama taunted, picking up on the blonde's annoyance. The inside of the house was another large hall. However, this was very poorly lit, giving Naruto very little to see in front of his face. It's different if it's you, Kurama. He was judging me without even knowing me, Naruto answered. So you're saying that I can talk down to you more often than I do already? Oh, what fun. The large fox guffawed. Yeah, but no matter how much you do, you still have to live with the fact I beat you in a fight and stole your chakra, Naruto replied jokingly. Kurama scoffed at Naruto's response. Whatever, don't get too confident. I could always stop helping you. Anyway, look sharp, you're being watched. Yeah, I know, I can feel it. Something moving in the shadows. The stealth is amazing to not make a single sound despite where we are. Naruto agreed. A few steps later and a large empty cushioned pedestal appeared. Light shone down on it from above and illuminated the hall. Naruto spun around to catch his stalker who had chosen that moment to move. He was surprised, however, to see an elderly leopard, thin and battle-scarred. "You knew I was following you?" the leopard asked in a croaky voice. "Well, you could say I am a bit of a censor, although the truth is I have nothing on Karin," Naruto admitted. "You are the child I have been waiting for. I knew from the moment you stepped into my hall," the elder cat said with a victorious smirk before leaping gracefully over Naruto and onto the large cushion in the center of the hall. "Why have you been waiting for me?" Naruto asked curiously. "You boy are fated for great things. The savior of a world must die in one only to be reborn in another," the elder said matter-of-factly. Naruto was completely lost. "What are you talking about? Are you planning on trying to kill me, because I am not going down without a fight?" Naruto declared, his eyes taking on a tint of red as Kurama was ready to jump in and defend Naruto if need be. The elder leopard laughed loudly, although not in a threatening way. "You misunderstand me, boy. You died, did you not? Faked your death and ran away? You leave one world behind to travel to another. You are the child of destiny chosen by fate." "Fate, huh? I am not a big believer in that. The last time I listened to a prophecy it told me I would die. Yet here I am, alive and well. The only fate that is definite is death, and it's one we all share," Naruto replied. "But I just told you you did die. To the people of your world, their savior died," the leopard retorted. "Because I wanted to bring peace. The prophecy of the Toad Sage said that my death fighting Sasuke would be the catalyst for a great era of peace. I made a promise that I would bring peace to the world. I promised my sensei and my fellow disciple that I wouldn't give up until I did. I never go back on my word," Naruto said in a huff. He gave up his dreams of being Hokage, a future in Konoha for them to have peace. "Yes, and that is what brought you here, you, the one who brings balance. The Toad clan are not the only ones with a seer, and the future that any seer sees can be misinterpreted. Visions in the end are just that, visions. They give you a glimpse, but not the full story," the elder said happily. Naruto didn't exactly follow him but decided the discussion was pointless. "What do you want with me then?" he asked. "To tell you that your trials are not over. In the future you will encounter a situation where you will make a choice, and your answer will decide the fate of millions," the elder decreed. Naruto was filled with anger that wasn't directed at anyone. "Why? I don't want this anymore. Haven't I sacrificed enough? I am sick of having fate and destiny forced upon me. I will live my life the way I see fit. I am not looking to be a hero anymore," he said, his voice cracking slightly at the end. "If when the time comes and that is your answer, then so be it. I have no more to say, but before you go, think on this. War is a horrible thing, but no wars are fought over nothing. In a world where people with equal wills have conflicting views on the world, there will be no answer but force." The elder paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. "Please send the girl in. Nemea will show you to your bedchamber." Outside the giant stone house, Karin was waiting by the entrance. Yuniko had since left, and now she stood waiting with the much smaller Nemea. "They're taking forever," Karin complained, rubbing her hair in frustration. Truth was, she was feeling anxious. She had never really spent much time around summoned creatures before, so realizing that she was expected to become a summoner to this clan made her nervous. She wanted to make a good impression. Fortunately, she didn't have to wait any longer. Naruto appeared from the entrance, looking rather thoughtful. He certainly wasn't his usual bubbly self. "Looks like it's your turn. Good luck," he said half-heartedly. Karin looked to the Nemea for confirmation. "Yes, you may enter now," the cat said, ushering Konan inside. He reappeared a few moments later and walked over to Naruto. "I trust your talk was enlightening?" Naruto shrugged in response. "It was something. Hard to know what to make of it for sure, though." "Is that so? Well, follow me. I have been entrusted with the task of showing you to where you will be staying. That girl will be a while. She needs to sign the leopard contract as well," Nemea said candidly, and just stalked off, expecting the blonde to follow. Meanwhile, Karin was approaching the large pedestal where the snow leopard elder was lounging. Hello?" she said tentatively. "Ah, young lady, at last we meet. Come closer so I can get a good look at you," the old leopard said in his croaky voice. Karin complied somewhat hesitantly. "Were you expecting me?" she asked, slightly confused. "Oh, of course, child. We of the Snow Leopard clan have never had a summoner before. The last person capable did not have the required personal traits that we look for," the elder said with a minor reflective scowl, as if he was thinking of a bad memory. But I have these traits you desire? Karin asked, skeptical that she had anything special. Yes, you're determined and loyal, yet you crave independence. The old feline said confidently. That doesn't really sound all that much like me. Naruto maybe, but not me. She replied honestly. It's true, that young man has such qualities in spades. But he has a powerful summoning contract already, and we snow leopards are a possessive type. We do not like to share. Perhaps these qualities we seek are a trait of your family. The elder mused. Family? What are you talking about? We're not related. We came from completely different parts of the elemental nations, she said with some finality. You are not directly related, no, but your chakras share traits of a clan. I am sure distantly you came from the same group of humans. The leopard replied. Karin didn't like the idea that she might be related to Naruto, although she had no idea why. The thought just seemed wrong to her. You're mistaken, there is nothing similar about our chakra. His is bright and powerful like the sun, nothing like my own, so you have learned to see, but not to feel. The way you see his chakra is a personal reference to the type of man he is, not where he came from. The feel of chakra determines family bonds, and to the highly trained can give a look into someone's past. The feel of your chakra and the young sage is similar. You are from the same clan, of that I am sure. That is why you, who have been abandoned many times before, feel drawn to him. The elder said lazily. Karin still couldn't accept this. They were so different. Besides, she was an orphan from Kusa. Naruto was the son of the Yondaime Hokage and a prominent member of the Uzumaki clan. That had many branch families that have scattered all over the elemental nations, even before the destruction of Yuzu. A small voice spoke in the back of her head, that she tried her best to ignore. Could it be that you are worried about your compatibility with that boy? The leopard asked, the smallest glint in his eyes appearing. Karin's face burned red. Of course not, he may be kind, and he has saved my life. What I mean is, he's an idiot. Like I would fall for someone like him, she said, flatly denying his accusation. I see, regardless, the truth is you are no closer related to him by blood than a man from a different clan. After all, a clan is a group of families that share traits and experiences. That's why clan members mate with other clan members all the time. The old leopard replied with a smirk. He's right, during the clan wars most marriages were solely within clans. It was how they kept their bloodlines strong, and if any family did marry out of it, the new extended family would become part of the clan. Even today some clans mostly marry between branch families to protect Kekkai Genkai, like those Hyuga from Konoha. She realized, without even catching on to the fact that she was feeling a whole lot better. I told you I don't like him, so why are you telling me this? She asked half angrily. Her angered expression softened, however, to an almost sad one. Besides, he wouldn't see anything in me anyway. I'd just get in the way and slow him down. The old leopard's eyes narrowed in thought. That is not true, he is strong, that one. But even the strongest people need someone to confide in. He needs you, more than you know. The young sage is important to this world, but not even that young man can do everything on his own, remember that. I'll do my best. Karin replied. Now that the pleasantries are out of the way, it's time to ask, are you prepared to sign the snow leopard contract? I do, it's really an honor. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. The snow leopard elder smiled, quickly pressing his paws together before placing them on the ground, summoning a giant scroll. The scroll opened up in front of Karin enough to see the first part of the scroll was blank. You need to mark your fingertips, and write your name in blood, he instructed. Karin slowly did as she was told, lightly cutting her thumb and dipping each finger in the blood before placing them atop the exposed section of scroll. Good, now write your full name in blood underneath. Full name, but I don't have a family name, Karin replied. I already told you that you do, you have to accept that fate. Now write your name, and become our first summoner. The elder spoke firmly. Karin wrote the first part of her name, then hesitated. She sent a questioning gaze to the old feline, but he was just intently watching the scroll. Letting out a loud sigh, she slowly wrote down Uzumaki. There, that's it, right? She asked calmly. Yes, congratulations, you will still need to learn how to perform a summoning, but that can be learned in time. I am sure that the young sage can teach you the process required. The elder leopard said, somewhat disinterested all of a sudden. Is there anything else you need me to do? Karin asked. No, for now you must continue your journey. I do hope you enjoy the rest of your stay here. Neme will be waiting outside to escort you to your accommodation. Before you go, remember, you are now an ambassador of our clan. Your actions will reflect on us. Keep that in mind, the elder said firmly. I will. Thank you again, Elder Sama. Karin said with a bow before turning to leave. Farewell, Karin Uzumaki. I am sure we will meet again. The old leopard said under his breath, not even loud enough for the kunoichi to hear. Konoha. Tsunade stood in the center of a cold, sterile room. On either side of her were two bodies that lay perfectly still. They were so tranquil that at first glance it appeared that they were only sleeping. Tsunade had a clipboard in her hand and an angry scowl on her face. The report she had read on the two fallen shinobi was by her standards subpar. While all the standard tests were done, bloodum and chakra type, they were less thorough than she, Shizen, or even Sakura could perform. She had been in that morgue for hours redoing so many of the tests that should have been done the first time. This is making no sense at all. I need something that will give me a proper answer. There are too many conflicts. One report test says it is Naruto, but much of the physical evidence is inconclusive. Also, there is not even a single trace of the seal, or the Kyuubi's chakra. That leads me to believe that this can't be Naruto. Also, this wound, it's all wrong. Judging by Sasuke's body shape and height, he did not cause this injury. Then who did? Tsunade spun around to see Kakashi standing there in full Hokage robes, including the hat. Based on the facts and evidence, then I believe that it was Naruto. Tsunade replied. He committed seppuku? I refuse to believe that. He would never do something like that. Kakashi said with complete certainty. I agree, but the injury caused by Sasuke's blade that conducts chakra was coated in futon chakra of high potency, like Naruto's. Also, the height and strength requirements suggest it had to have come from Naruto. Tsunade replied. How can you tell? If he killed himself, most of his strength wouldn't show. It's not possible to strike yourself with all of your strength. Kakashi reasoned. Which is why I don't think this is Naruto at all. The only way for this death to be possible was if Naruto had killed himself using a clone. That is physically impossible. All clones dispel regardless of their type if the main body comes under intense stress. I don't know what this thing is, but it's not Naruto. The Godame declared. Do you remember during the war when the Zetsu clones attempted to assassinate the medical teams? They were able to clone someone so perfectly that everything matched right down to the tiniest degree. This could be nothing but a Zetsu clone. I have had this thought for some time. The question is, how did Naruto get his hands on one? Not to mention get Zetsu to listen to his orders. Kakashi replied. I read the reports of what happened in the war after I lost consciousness. Once Madara and Obito were defeated, all the remaining Zetsu clones lost all consciousness and were eliminated. Perhaps they were willing to react to Naruto, but nobody else? Tsunade theorized. It is possible, but how could we know for sure? It's also possible that both Sasuke and Naruto were able to fake their deaths in this way if they decided to do this together. Kakashi mused. That may be the case, but I don't think so. If Sasuke was working with Naruto, he would have been the one to strike the blow. It would make no sense for him to kill himself if Sasuke was there to make it look more believable. Tsunade reasoned. Unless, of course, Sasuke was in such a state that it was impossible for him to do the job. We saw the place where they had been fighting. It was a barren wasteland after they were finished. Kakashi proposed. Well, then I guess there is only one way to find out. Tsunade said and quickly removed a small piece of muscle tissue from each of the bodies. What are you doing? Kakashi asked. I am going to check for my grandfather's DNA, or traces of his chakra, as opposed to trying to prove that it's Naruto. That's all the Zetsu clones were, constructs of my father's genetic structure. Even if they copy Naruto perfectly, underneath everything, if you look deep enough, a fake will show its true colors. Tsunade spoke as she began running various tests with the tissue samples she had removed. Now all we have to do is wait, she said. Now that she had something specific to look for, she was so confident that she could prove that the blonde laying on the operating table wasn't Naruto. How long will it take? Kakashi asked. Only a few minutes. You may want to stick around. This is it. I can feel it. Tsunade answered with a confident smirk. The minutes passed away in silence as both ninja waited with bated breath. Suddenly a sheet of paper appeared, printing out the results of the tests through the use of seals. Tsunade slowly approached the sheet and began reading. About halfway through, her expression fell. No luck? Kakashi guessed, feeling slightly gutted. Tsunade scrunched up the paper, her monstrous strength grinding it into a pulp in her grip as her face turned to one of anger. That little bastard! When I get my hands on him, he is going to wish he really was dead, she said, her face transforming once more into a triumphant smirk. He's alive, she declared. Kakashi let out one of his famous eye smiles. Thank goodness. I'm so glad that my beloved student is still alive, he said with a smile. But I am afraid to say that this is indeed the body of Sasuke Uchiha. I'm sorry, Kakashi, Tsunade said with some sympathy. Despite the fact Sasuke had fallen so far, she knew the loss hurt. She felt something similar when Orochimaru had been reported to have died. The fact was she hated the snake Sannin, yet it was still upsetting to hear he had died. It's alright, Tsunade-sama. I knew it was a long shot, but it always hurts to hear that your student has died. Minato-sensei, Jiraiya-sama, both experienced this. I guess we just can't compare with Hiruzen-sama to raise 3 shinobi that all outlived him. Kakashi sighed. So what are your orders, Hokage-sama? What do we do with this information? Tsunade asked. We do nothing. Naruto had his reasons for leaving, of that I am certain. I need to believe in his choice, so we will hide this information as an S-class secret. Kakashi answered calmly. Are you sure? He's out there all alone. Everyone in the elemental nations have heard of his name by now. Most of them will know his face. He can't even henge those whisker marks of his. Let me go find him, at least so he knows that he will always have a home here in Konoha. Tsunade said with a steely determination. As far as I am concerned, I have no right to order you to stay. You are my superior as Godame Hokage. I will accept your request, but I must ask that you stay until after we hold a funeral for this Naruto. I believe he will return one day, but until that day comes we have to keep this secret from everyone. Nobody else can know that he is still alive. After the funeral I will come up with a mission that you can undertake, that will have no set amount of time to complete. Actually, I already have the perfect one. All I have to do is call a team back from the field and give you their mission. Kakashi said quickly, coming up with a plan. It means Naruto will have a few more days to get away from me, but I accept. Call the team in field back. They will need to give me a proper report if I am believably going to take their mission from them. Tsunade suggested. Kakashi nodded and made for the exit to the morgue before pausing. I will go to my office at once and send out the messenger hawk. Remember to tell Naruto I will be waiting for his return. I'll even save an umbu mask for him if he wants to keep his identity hidden. What do you think he would prefer, Gamma or Kitsune? Maybe you should hold on to both and let him decide. If it was me, I would give him a parasite mask as punishment for leaving. Tsunade replied with a short laugh. Just be sure to find him then. Oh, and do try to at least act sad during the funeral, Kakashi said, and with that he disappeared in a puff of smoke. A shadow clone? Damn it, Kakashi, if you let me catch you using clones to talk to me again, I will kill you! She yelled loudly enough that the whole village could hear. Kakashi sat in his office and a sweat drop formed as he had taken out a form to have the group sent after Karin returned. Maybe I should have waited until I was out of the room to do that, he thought with a little worry. Underground cave. Here we are, your quarters for your time here in our village, Nemea said with a slight bow. They were about halfway up the side of the massive hall containing the homes of the leopard clan. It was approaching dusk and the felines were becoming more active as the night approached. Several cubs were mock fighting down below, and several of the larger summons were heading outside to keep watch over the mountains during the night. Thank you, Nemeu, I am sure it will be wonderful. It can't be any worse than our cold tent, Karin replied. I hope you are satisfied. Elder Sama has also told me to inform you that your accommodation has a private hot spring for you to bath at your convenience. The leopard spoke with a bow. Karin nodded, bid farewell to the summons and turned to face her temporary lodgings. There was no door, but a thick curtain with a slit in the middle gave privacy from those outside. She wondered for a moment whether or not she could trust the snow leopards to grant her that privacy, but in the end she decided that they wouldn't do anything to upset their new summoner. Pushing through the folds in the curtain, she came into a lovely room. While it still looked like a cave, it had certain homely touches that couldn't be ignored, like a raging fire pit ready to cook her food, and best of all in Karin's opinion was a large double bed with luxurious-looking blankets and soft pillows. It's been such a long day, I am going to go have a bath and jump right into that bed. Dinner can wait. Naruto has all the food anyway, she thought blissfully. Her thoughts lingered on Naruto as she got undressed. Kami, what am I supposed to tell him? Guess what, I found out we are from the same clan. Impossible. Well, he's from the main house of the Uzumaki clan that were cousins to the Senju clan. He's more closely related to Tsunade of the Sannin than he is to me, even if we do share a last name. That thought made her smile a bit. Truth was, she liked the fact she had a connection with Naruto. She sighed happily. Still, I wonder where he's staying, she asked herself as she pushed past another curtain and into the bathroom wrapped up in her towel. What she wasn't expecting was an answer. Where who's staying? A small voice asked, coming from the water's edge. Karin froze as her eyes slowly glided to the source of the new voice. There sat a small yellow toad with a very inquisitive look on its face. What was worse, there was Naruto sitting in the water red-faced and doing his best not to look, although he was failing magnificently, and another dark orange toad. Yo boss, I didn't know you did stuff like this? I thought it was Jiraiya-sama that was into peeking on women and that sort of stuff. Gamakichi said questioningly. At the time it was probably the worst thing in the world that the toad could have said. You think it's funny sneaking into my bath, Naruto? She asked with fire in her eyes. I didn't, I swear, this is where I am staying. Naruto pleaded, making an extra effort to avoid staring at her ample exposed cleavage and the incredibly short length the towel covered of her legs. Nemea said this was my apartment during my stay, so that makes this my bath. Now get out. Karin ordered. He said the same thing to me. Maybe they expect us to share? Naruto replied. Karin froze, half ready to beat the blonde half to death. That's true. Beside, I have no reason not to trust Naruto, she thought. Then something else came to her mind. But there is only one bed, she stammered, her face going red with the implication. Sure, it was big enough for 2 people, but if Naruto was telling the truth, then the snow leopards had prepared the room for a couple rather than 2 singles. Naruto's eyes widened slightly, his mind winding up in the same place, firmly in the gutter. Face rapidly reddening, her waved his hands defensively in front of his face. It's alright, I can sleep on the floor. You can have the bed. They're your summons, so you take priority, he said, silently wondering if he was starting to become more like Jiraiya, as he couldn't help but hope that some force of nature would cause her towel to drop. Karin felt slightly disappointed at this. What am I thinking? Do I actually want him to share the bed with me? No, I am just feeling guilty for making him sleep on the floor. Get over it, Karin. He's just a kind-hearted idiot, nothing more, she thought. I guess that will work. Since you're already in the bath, I guess I can wait. Just don't take too long, she said in a bossy attitude before leaving in a huff. Once she was out of sight, she took off in a blur, running around to collect all of her clothes she had mindlessly discarded while undressing. So boss, who's the girl? Fukusaku-sama told Tsusan that you were traveling alone. Gamakichi asked, swelling from a small toad that would fit into Naruto's hands all the way into one twice the size of the blonde. Yeah, she's pretty, but a little scary. Still, I like her better than the pink-haired one. She at least waits for an explanation before attempting to hurt you. Gamatsu said, nodding in agreement. Naruto laughed at the toad's description of Sakura. You better not let Sakura-chan hear you say that. To answer your question, that is Karin. I met her a while ago. She was even more desperate to get out to the elemental nations than I was, so she's tagging along with me. She may not have seemed it there, but she's actually really nice, and kind of cute too. Damn it, Naruto, don't make me give you a talk on teenage hormones. At your age, any half-naked women would be kind of cute. Kurama scowled. Leave me alone, Kurama. I know you don't like her, but why not at least give her a chance, the blonde replied. The giant fox just huffed in reply. I'll think about it. Well, I'd better get out. I have been soaking in here for a while and I don't want to end up like all wrinkly like a prune. Next time I'm somewhere warm, I'll summon you both again. It was great seeing you guys, Naruto said while standing up out of the water and wading to the edge. Yeah, catch you round, boss, Gamakichi said before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Next time, can you have some snacks? Gamatsu questioned. I'll do my best, Naruto replied with a laugh. Okay, bye boss, bye pretty lady, Gamatsu said with a wave before he too disappeared. On the other side of the curtain, Karin almost had a heart attack. That toad saw me, she gasped. She was going to barge in and demand to know how long Naruto was going to be, but when she saw him slowly stand up out of the water from the crack in the curtain, she stopped to enjoy the show. Damn it, my heart is beating so quickly. Oh shit, he's coming out, I need to relax, she told herself, quickly running over to the bed to distance herself from the bathroom. Hey Karin, you can have the bath now, Naruto said, appearing from the other room. He had on his ninja pants, but his top was thrown over one shoulder, with his seal clearly visible on his navel. Unconsciously, Karin licked her lips, something that didn't go unnoticed by the blonde. Are you hungry? If you want, I can prepare something to eat. The snow leopards gave us some meat so we can eat well for a few days again, he asked, clearly as clueless as ever. The question awoke Karin from her stupor. Yeah, sure. Make anything you want, she said in a tone that was a little too close to the one she used to talk to Sasuke with for her liking. If you peek on me, you're dead, she said quickly before running off to take a bath and hopefully cool off. Chapter 16. Conflicting Feelings. So do you guys see anything? Kiba asked as he sat atop Akamaru looking over the scorched landscape and giant craters that littered the land where Naruto and Sasuke had fought to the death. It's difficult to tell. The Byakugan may be an impressive dojutsu, but its night vision is still somewhat limited. Perhaps we should make camp and resume our search in the morning? Niji suggested. A sound plan. We should also check the location that Naruto's body was found. If our target came this way, then that would be her likely destination. Shino reasoned logically. I would agree, but I think you will find the site that Naruto's body was found has been disturbed by more than a few people since our target would have left. We will set up camp here. I need to send a message to Kakashi-sama informing him of our current status. Sai said passively. How are you going to report to Kakashi-sama from all the way out here? It would take a day even for a messenger hawk to reach Konoha. Kiba asked. My ninjutsu uses ink. My messenger birds can travel great distances in much shorter of a time than the normal hawks. Kakashi-sama will have the report within a few hours. So we should have a reply by tomorrow. Sai answered expressionlessly. Man, that's a useful technique. Kiba said, clearly impressed with the stoic ninja's abilities. That is why Danzo-sama used to send me as a spy into enemy territory. Any information I could find would be sent as quickly as possible, and my ink creatures cannot be captured like messenger hawks. They simply disperse if they're prevented from reaching their destination. Sai said in a matter-of-fact tone. Yes, I see how that could be an advantage. It would stop a large chance of misinformation or counterintelligence. Shino said with an approving nod. Now would it be too much trouble to help set up the camp? We have much to prepare, and it's already dark. The Aburame clan heir added. The two nodded in agreement, and Akamaru barked his approval as they began setting up the tents and gathering wood for a fire. A short distance away, Hinata and Niji stood with their Byakugan activated, looking over the wasteland before them. It must have been quite an amazing battle. Look at the damage they caused. Hinata said in awed reverence. Indeed, it is a shame I will never get the chance to have a rematch with Naruto. Although I feared the result would be no different to the last time we fought. Niji replied. Niji-Nizan, do you think we will find Karin? The Kunoichi asked slightly timidly. I am afraid that I do not think we will. It has been a long time, so she will not be around this area anymore. Also, Kakashi-sama cannot put off Naruto's funeral much longer. We will be recalled and an Umbu team designed for long-term missions will be sent out in our place. That is standard procedure for this type of threat. My guess would be she has fled to a non-affiliated village to seek refuge. If that is the case, it will not take long to find her. The reward offered and threat of antagonizing the 5 great shinobi villages will be too great. Niji answered calmly. I see. Hinata sighed sadly. Is something wrong, Hinata-sama? Niji asked. You don't need to call me that, Nisan. Just Hinata is fine. To be honest, I wanted to be the one that caught Karin. That way I could do something to make sure Naruto can rest in peace. Hinata explained while slightly downhearted. Meanwhile, Naruto was most certainly not resting in peace. In fact, he was finding it nigh impossible to get comfortable. The large cave he was staying in was so warm that the thermal sleepwear and sleeping bag he brought with him felt like an oven. And it didn't help that he was sleeping on a thin futon on a solid stone floor. Normally he wouldn't mind too much, but less than 3 feet away Karin lay quite contentedly on one of the most luxurious-looking beds the blonde had ever seen. Letting out a sigh, Naruto kicked out of his sleeping bag and slowly made it to his feet. He stretched out, cracking his joints that were sore from laying on the hard ground before heading for the exit. He had just made it to the thick curtain when he felt Karin move around behind him. Where are you going? She asked through half-lidded eyes that were lacking her usual glasses. I just thought I would go for a walk, have a look around. We didn't really see much on our way in. Besides, I thought it would be cool to meet some of the Snow Leopard clan. Naruto half lied. He didn't want to tell her that he couldn't get comfortable because it was too hot, and the ground was so hard his sleeping bag was about as useful as a piece of cardboard. Oh, how long will you be? She asked. I don't know, probably not long. You can go back to sleep. I can't sleep. I have something on my mind. It's really annoying, and kind of stupid, but I just can't stop thinking about it. Well, you can come have a look around with me if you want. It might be fun. We could go meet some of your new partners together. You will want to befriend them if you're going to fighting together. Naruto reasoned. Karin shook her head weakly. No, I think that would just make things worse at the moment. Thanks anyway. Maybe time away from you will help me clear my head. That damn elder leopard has made me all confused. I shouldn't be thinking about Naruto. He's a friend and nothing more. Hell, he's probably not even a friend. We're just traveling together, she told herself for what was the 100th time that night. Naruto's smile faltered for just a second. Oh well, I guess I'll see you when I get back if you're still awake, she said before pushing through the curtains and out into the giant open cave that rose high up the inside of the mountain. You're getting attached to her, Kurama said flatly. I don't know what you're talking about. Naruto flatly denied the fox's assumption. Kurama scoffed at his jinchuriki. You think you can lie to me, Naruto? I know you were upset that she didn't want to come for a walk with you. I just thought she should meet some of her summons. It would be better if she was around, as she's not really an outsider like I am. That's all, he told himself, as well as the fox. If that is what you wish to tell yourself, then fine. I am not going to argue. Kurama replied. Oh, what do you know anyway? Naruto scoffed half-heartedly. He knew that when it came to being an empath, there was no better being than Kurama. She has been in a state of confusion since coming back from that old cat. I don't like it. Her emotions are unstable, like she's fighting with herself over something. She may be planning on betraying you. The fox informed the blonde. He's a leopard, and he left me confused as well. I don't see it as a big deal. Naruto answered. Betrayal hurts more when it is done by someone you trust. The more faith you place in an individual, the more it hurts if they turn on you. Kurama spoke. That's a very lonely way of looking at the world, Kurama. You trusted me and we became friends. Before that you were all alone. Which one do you prefer? You are different, we both know that. Regardless, as per your insistence, I am willing to give the girl a chance. I just hope you don't regret it, and maybe restrict the time you spend ogling her in the future. Naruto's face heated up and turned scarlet. I didn't do that, she walked in on me in the bath. It's not my fault. Still, she is quite pretty, and I am a male dash. You are sounding like your perverted hermit-sensei, Kurama said with a smirk. I am not like Ero-senin. It's just hard not to notice something like that when she walks in covered only in a towel. Careful, Naruto, your mind is wandering. The fox teased. This conversation is over, Naruto declared before shutting off their communication link. Still, I wonder what Karin really thinks about me, he thought to himself before shaking his head clear. What am I thinking? My head is just clouded because I almost saw her naked, that's all, he told himself out loud as he casually walked down towards the base of the cave, following a large circular path that spiraled around the edges of the cave leading to the base level where most of the leopards had gathered below. Like most felines, the snow leopards were mostly nocturnal, so they were far more active now than they were when Yuniko had carried them in. Naruto arrived at the base of the path and was greeted by Nameyu, the snow leopard that Naruto assumed was working as the elder's assistant. A young sage, what brings you here? Are your accommodations not to your liking? No. Well, now that you mention it, we only have one bed, and the floor is rather hard. Naruto admitted somewhat tentatively. Is the bed not big enough for the two of you? I was under the impression that human mates shared a bedchamber together, Nameyu queried. Naruto's face burned red with what the leopard was insinuating. We're not like that. Karin is just a friend, not a girlfriend, and certainly not a mate. He attempted to explain as quickly as he could to clear up any misconception that the large cat may have had. I see, do you not find Karin attractive? Nameyu asked in an emotionless tone. Naruto paused for a moment. Well, I guess I find her attractive, she's pretty, even with her glasses, and that crazy hair. But that's not the issue, we're not dating or anything like that. I see, I do not understand the concept of dating, but if I am to understand you correctly, you are traveling all alone with Karin yet have no desire to mate with her? Humans are indeed strange creatures, Nameyu mused. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck trying to get his head around what the leopard had meant. Well, I guess that's an accurate assumption. Although personally I think you're the weird one, we're just friends, nothing else. Perhaps that is so, we do have different value systems to those of humans after all. We respect strength and commitment. Which is why our determination to protect these mountains from intruders is unrivaled. Only once were we ever bested. But you humans cherish bonds between others. You travel with and protect Karin, even though she is not your mate. I fail to see the purpose in that. If it not to protect the one you desire to carry your cubs, why risk your life? The snow leopard asked. Because she is a comrade and I would never let a comrade die if I could help it. Plus she is a friend. I would be sad if anything happened to her. Naruto tried to explain. I see, so there are emotional bonds that can be formed outside family interest. You humans are rather interesting. I am afraid we do not have another cave prepared for you to use during your stay, but I am sorry that I have misread the status of your relationship with our summoner, and I apologize for the inconvenience. I will see that a new room is prepared for you, Nameyu said with a bow. Nah, it's alright, really I was just being fussy because I was sleeping on the floor. Naruto explained. I see. If I may ask, as your relationship status with Karin is one of friendship, would it not be possible to share the bed we have provided? The leopard questioned. Well, I guess we could, but it's probably not a very good idea. Besides, it seems rather intimate to share a bed with a girl. Naruto answered with a slight pink hue on his cheeks. I do not fully understand, but I will accept your premise. I will prepare a separate room for you tomorrow should you decide to stay another night. Thank you for your time, young sage. It's Naruto. Pardon? My name, it's Naruto. I figure you seem friendly enough, even if you are kind of odd. So call me by my real name, okay? Very well, a pleasure to be granted this honor. Naruto, Nemea said with a bow of his front legs before stalking off. That was rather embarrassing, and now I am more awake than ever. Maybe I'll go do some training. I'll wear myself out, then I can just fall asleep out of exhaustion. Naruto thought. He moved into the center of the cave and placed his hands in a very familiar hand position. The next second, close to 100 identical clones of the blonde had appeared. Alright, a quarter of you run through my toad-style katas, half work on some futon manipulation, while the rest of you, I want to spar with. Naruto said, removing his top due to the heat. The group of clones split up effortlessly, and each took to their assigned task. Naruto had to react quickly as 3 clones shot at him. As the original, he was slightly faster and stronger, but 1 against 25 was not going to be an easy task. Off to the side, many of the leopards gathered around to watch the rather unique show. It was not often that they saw a human, not to mention one that would create copies of himself to fight with. Naruto ducked and weaved in between strikes. His reaction time from fighting with Kurama had improved greatly, but he was still taking a few hits from his clones, simply because they outnumbered him so heavily. But because they were in essence him, he could see their strategy early enough. One group would rush in and attack at key areas while another group would sit back and look for an opening should the initial attack be thwarted. Deciding to go for the attack, Naruto slipped through the first attack and intentionally made what would appear to be an opening for the second wave to attack. However, the moment they came in, the real Naruto used his superior speed to dispel several of the clones. Instantly, the clones gave up that strategy and decided to adopt another one. A sophisticated plan often referred to as a bum rush. All clones diverged on the real Naruto as one. High up above, Karin was still having no luck getting to sleep. She had hoped that Naruto leaving the room would let her clear her mind of thoughts of the blonde, yet it had not worked out that way. She soon found herself somewhat anxious that he would leave her here and make his way north on his own. His bag is still here, he wouldn't leave without it, right? She told herself. She rolled over onto her back and let out a frustrated and annoyed yell. Damn it, what the hell is wrong with me? A loud explosion from outside jumped her back to her senses. What was that? What if the snow leopards are attacking Naruto-kun? She thought suddenly. Quick as a flash, she was out of bed and pushing through the curtains out into the giant cave. What she saw made her stop dead in her tracks. She let out a breath that she didn't know she had been holding when she saw that Naruto wasn't being attacked, at least not by the summons. But down below there were so many of him, she had no idea which was the real one. Amazing, they're all shadow clones. He must be using them to train. That's ingenious, she realized. When she located the real Naruto, he was being chased by a group of close to 20 clones, avoiding a few strikes before throwing one of his own. Often the clones who knew his movements perfectly would use that moment to mount a stronger attack of their own. Karin was mesmerized and sat on the edge of the path to get a good seat to watch the show. She soon found herself engrossed in every detail of his spar, the way he would anticipate and read even the most subtle of movement, almost like Sasuke with his Sharingan. Sure, they were clones of himself, so he would have an advantage, but to register that level of anticipation was still impressive. His style was certainly far more direct and rougher than Sasuke. He fought more like Jugo. But even so, not one move was wasted. The directness made it look like there were openings where there were none. Naruto ducked under a roundhouse kick from one of his clones and threw a punch of his own, hoping to hit the planting leg. All he needed to do was strike a clone once to dispel them. His fist came within a fingernail's length from striking before his target was yanked away by 2 other clones, with several more converging on him from almost every side. Naruto knew it was a trap, but at this stage he had no other option. He fell back in the direction they were forcing him. Moving with all the skill of a master tactician, the clones continued to shepherd Naruto in the direction of their choosing, the blonde noting that every so often one of the clones would break away. This continued for close to a minute until Naruto found himself perfectly surrounded by his own clones, each holding a kunai. Without giving him time to think, all the clones tossed their blades in one swift motion. Karin's heart stopped as the kunai all punctured the blonde from every angle. She let out a breathless scream, her voice lost in her throat. Suddenly the Naruto that appeared to be bleeding popped out of existence, indicating it was a clone. How, when? One of the clones asked. When you tossed those kunai. Naruto replied where one of the supposed clones were standing. He had substituted himself with a clone at the last second. Not wanting to give his copies a chance to regroup, Naruto took advantage of the fact they were currently all separated and quickly took the clones apart, running to the left, planting a knee into the closest clone's face while at the same time sending several kunai to those standing at the opposite side, each having yet to register just what was going on. By the time they had figured it out, it was too late. Naruto had decimated their numbers, leaving only 2 remaining. While they put up a valiant resistance, they were nothing compared to the real Naruto, and he soon had them both dispelled. High above, Karin was clutching at his chest with a small tear of joy running down her face. "Thank Kami, he's safe," she said. As she looked down at the blonde's satisfied smirk and bare chest, she felt her face warm considerably. "Oh no. I like Naruto-kun," she realized. She was both thrilled and horrified at the thought. The revelation had sent her heart racing as she watched him. "But what will he think of me? I am nothing. It wasn't all that long ago that I would have killed him without second thought if Sasuke had wanted me to. I am so messed up, what am I supposed to do now?" she thought, tucking her knees into her chest and wrapping her arms around them, all the while her eyes followed the blonde as he began to do one-armed push-ups. "I can't tell him, at least not yet. I haven't known him long enough. He will think I am weird, besides I don't deserve his love anyway. But at least I can watch him for real now, and one day he might feel something for me too." Naruto ran through a rather intense training schedule. He wanted to be so tired that he would drop the moment his head hit the pillow. Every so often he would dispel 1 or 2 of his clones to amass the fatigue they had accumulated in their training, but he had been used to using many more when he was training to learn his futon manipulation and the Raisin Shuriken. Karin just sat high above and watched for the next hour as the blonde pushed himself harder. Even from her lofty perch she could see the strained look on his face. The sweat rolling off his torso and down his arms was quite noticeable. "He's down to his last few clones. I wonder if he will be finished soon," she wondered. A newfound anxiety crept its way into her chest. "I hope he hasn't noticed that I have been watching him." After a few more minutes, the last of Naruto's clones had dispelled and he stood alone in the large clearing. The snow leopards for the most part had given him a wide berth. A few had watched his unique method of training himself, but none of them had moved close enough to warrant interaction with the young Jinchuriki. "That should probably do it. It's been months since I have been able to train properly like that." He sighed happily to himself. His mission was accomplished. Naruto felt both mentally and physically drained from his exertions, while no way near as bad as after his fights with the likes of Nagato, Madara, and Sasuke. He was confident that once he took another dip in the hot spring bath he would easily be able to fall asleep on the floor. Wearily he trudged back up the circular path leading to the cave he was sharing with Karin, his feet somewhat dragging behind his body. He pushed past the curtain and into the homely cave with an audible yawn, and silently made his way to the bath, careful not to make a noise that might wake Karin. Little did he know she was awake the entire time. She had stayed up hoping to greet the blonde as he returned, but a small anxiety attack had caused her to fake sleep when the entrance to the small living area began to move. "What am I doing? I can at least talk to him. We still have such a long way to travel together. I need to calm down," she told herself, sitting back up in the bed once Naruto had well and truly passed into the bathroom. She sat up in silence, knowing that Naruto would be having a bath after training so hard. The thought was comforting to Karin as it gave her ample time to prepare. She constantly told herself to act normal. When she had been crushing on Sasuke, she made no attempt to hide how she felt, but this was different. It would complicate things if she threw herself at Naruto, and he rejected her. Around 15 minutes later, Naruto reappeared wearing only a pair of orange boxers with small toads printed on them. Both teens froze when they saw each other. Naruto quickly wrapping a towel around his midsection, and Karin silently thankful it was so dark and he couldn't see the massive blush that had spread across her face. "Sorry, I thought you were asleep." Naruto apologized. "No, it's alright, I should have said something when you came back," Karin said, equally apologetic. Naruto nodded and quickly deposited himself into his sleeping bag to avoid any more awkwardness. "That's the second time that's happened tonight." He chuckled lightly, hoping that by livening the mood he could escape any backlash. "Yeah, but I guess that's what happens when you're living together with someone. Mistakes happen," Karin replied. Naruto was surprised she was somewhat forgiving. Sakura would have never let him off so easily. "Well, after tonight it won't happen again, at least not during our stay here." How can you be so sure?" Karin asked in a slightly teasing manner, which she silently berated herself for a second later. "Well, I went out for a walk because this floor is so uncomfortable to sleep on, and I ran into that leopard Nameu. I told him that we needed another bed, and he agreed to organize another apartment for me in the morning. I figured we could stay here a few days and revitalize before moving on," Naruto explained. Karen's face fell slightly. Is the floor really that uncomfortable? She asked weakly. Yeah, when we were camping outside, the snow and soft ground created a decent barrier, but this floor is solid stone. I ended up training so I would be exhausted enough to not worry about it and get to sleep. Naruto laughed. Kind of stupid, huh? If it's that bad, why didn't you tell me? Karin asked. Well, I guess I didn't want you to feel guilty about taking the bed. I am not even sure why I am telling you now. Maybe because I am so tired now. He answered. You can share the bed with me. It's only for one night, so I don't mind. She said, gulping nervously. She was trying desperately to keep any hint of longing out of her voice and to remain calm. Naruto sat up slowly from his place on the floor. Are you sure? I mean, you aren't worried that I would do something perverted? Karin blushed but shook off the thoughts quickly. No, I think I can trust you. It's only for one night, so I think I can stand sleeping beside you, she said, shuffling over to one side of the bed and folding back the covers. I don't mind, besides it can't be good to sleep like that even if you are really tired, she said, silently praying that he would take up her offer. Still, I wish I was wearing something a little more revealing than a baggy top and sweatpants. Oh, this is killing me. Maybe I can make him fall for me, she thought hopefully before shaking herself to her senses. I can't think about that stuff with him. I need to behave. I guess so. Give me a second, Naruto said, and quickly pulled on a plain white t-shirt and some track pants that he had stored in his bag. Sliding into the bed, it felt like his back had found heaven. It had been so long since he had lain on anything so comfortable. Almost immediately he began to feel the fatigue catching up with him. Thanks, Karin-chan. Good night. Good night, Naruto-kun, she whispered back, laying down facing the other way so she could try and calm herself down. Barely 2 minutes passed before she heard light snoring coming from the blonde. He must have been really tired. I guess training with that many clones must be exhausting, she thought, rolling over to stare at his peaceful face. I wonder, she thought, and slowly rose a hand in hopes of stroking one of his whisker marks. She almost had a heart attack when his eyes shot open. But they were not the azure blue that she remembered. No, this time his eyes were blood red and slitted. His whisker marks were rapidly widening. Do not touch him. Naruto's voice was distorted and Karin's eyes widened in fear when she realized just what it was she was now talking to. You're the cube, she stuttered, almost falling out of the bed. Correct, Kurama replied firmly. How? Karin asked. She was completely terrified at this point. The last bijou she had seen was the Hachibi, and it could have easily killed her several hundred times over. Naruto allows me certain freedoms. I simply took control of his body while he's sleeping to protect him. We watch out for each other, you see. So if you think I am going to let you harm him, then you are sadly mistaken. He may be a trusting and forgiving fool, but I am not. You stink of that foul Uchiha even now. So what do you want? To kill him in revenge for that piece of trash? I won't allow it, Kurama said. No, I wouldn't. I would never hurt Naruto-kun, I swear, Karin replied desperately. Kurama's eyes widened. You're telling the truth, then this negative emotion I am sensing from you is… Oh, I see, how pathetic. You have gone and fallen for him, haven't you? You sad child. The fox laughed. What, don't be ridiculous. Karin denied, but the blush on her face was already giving her away. Don't think you can lie to me, worm. I am the greatest of the 9, your emotions give you away. But don't worry, I won't tell him. This could even prove amusing to me, the fox added. Karin let out a sigh of relief. Thank you, he can't know. I don't deserve his love, not after all the horrible things I have done, she admitted sadly. It seems we are on the same page in that regard. But don't fret, girl, I won't share your secret. Watching you suffer in silence will be entertaining to me. Now I have been in control for long enough, and I guess that I'm satisfied Naruto is in no danger, Kurama said with a sinister smirk gracing Naruto's features before his eyes closed and his body returned to peaceful sleep. Karin's heart was racing. She knew one thing, and that was that she did not want to tangle with Naruto's bijou again. She could feel the dark aura of its chakra and knew that should she ever try to harm the sleeping blonde in any way, it would be the last thing she ever did. Lightly she stretched out and stroked his cheek once, glad that this time there was no surprises from the fox. She let out a sigh and rolled over and waited for sleep to claim her. Chapter 17, A Hero's Peace. Karin slowly cracked an eye. As she awoke, it was hard to tell what time it really was. No natural light entered the cave where she was staying, just an unnatural glow that seemed to emanate from the walls. She had jumbled thoughts for a few moments, slowly putting together where she was. The events of the day quickly flashed through her mind, and she smiled contentedly. It was that moment she noticed a weight pressing down on her shoulder as she slept on her side. Slowly gazing down, she saw Naruto's arm draped lazily over her. He had been rolling around in his sleep. She almost screamed in surprise but caught herself at the last second. He must be still asleep, she realized, and a small smirk crossed her face. Lowering her head back down, she slowly readjusted herself, careful not to wake the sleeping Jinchuriki, and moved closer, cuddling in against his chest, and allowed herself to fall back to sleep, enjoying the added warmth of the blonde. It was another half an hour before Naruto began to stir. His eyes fluttered open and immediately he froze in place. Karin was curled up beside him while he had his arm draped over her back. Oh shit, if she catches me like this I'm dead, he thought frantically. Slowly he removed his arm from around the red head, and without taking his eyes off her face in fear of being caught he pushed himself back. Rolling out of bed, unfortunately losing his balance, and landing head first on the stone floor. I sure hope nobody saw that, he quietly said to himself, quickly glancing to Karin to make sure she was still asleep. Much to Naruto's dismay, Karin was staring wide-eyed at the blonde while struggling to contain her laughter. Good morning, she greeted, her voice cracking from the suppressed outburst. Yeah, it's not really the best way to start the day, is it? Naruto replied sheepishly. It was too late to pretend nothing had happened. So how long have you been awake? He asked, hoping to take the attention off his clumsiness. Just from the moment you fell off the bed. And if you ask me, that was the perfect way to wake up. She giggled. So I guess you saw that, huh? Naruto replied, laughing himself, knowing how stupid he must have looked. So what do you want to do today? Oh, I know, you just signed a summoning contract. We should work on getting you to summon some of the leopards. He added. You mean you will help? Karin asked. Sure, why not? It's hard to do on your own. It can't be all that different from summoning the toads. I know Bachan used the same hand seals to summon Katsuyu, so I should be able to help easily enough. At least I hope I can. I mean, I did teach Konohamaru the Rasengan and Shadow Clone, so I can't be that bad of a teacher, right? Naruto answered questioningly. How would I know? I have no idea how to use either of those jutsu. But I am sure you will do fine, Karin replied while hopping out of bed. Shall we have some breakfast and get to work then? Naruto nodded. Sure, I'll get the fire started again if you want to go take a bath and freshen up for the day. Sure, I'll be back in a bit. Oh, and Naruto-kun, thank you for helping me, Karin said happily before heading off to the bathroom. She was quite pleased with how her day was going so far. Meanwhile, the tracking team from Konoha stood in front of a makeshift shrine made from stone and sand, obviously put together by Gaara. All in front of the site sat bouquets of flowers as well as letters from well-wishers, each addressed to Naruto. What the hell is this? How are we supposed to find anything here now? Kiba asked as he looked at the area. It looked as though almost every shinobi from all of the nations had been waltzing through the area. I told you that we were not likely to find anything here. But if you wish to look for a fresh lead, then this would be the best place to start now, Sai said emotionlessly. All of the leads will have been destroyed by the sheer number of people that have come here. I cannot see anything that would seem useful from here. Let's search the area. Perhaps the path she took from this place may hold something of value, Niji suggested. The Hyuga prodigy removed a map and marked areas for the 5 shinobi to search individually. So we investigate the perimeter. That seems like a logical choice in this situation. However, without knowing which direction our target was heading, we will have no idea how large of a diameter to create. Nor do we know if our target was here in the first place, Shino said in his usual, flat tone. So basically we split up and each search an area. This could take a while. Kiba sighed. He knew that there would be no scent for his nose to follow, which would make this that much harder. True, but we have no other options. This is the best we have, so we should get to work, Sai replied and quickly removed a scroll and a brush with black ink and began creating several small ink creatures before creating a large ink bird. I'll search from above while they search below, he stated before jumping atop the large ink bird's back and taking off. Sure, he gets the easy job while we're stuck laboring around down here. Kiba huffed. If I am not mistaken, you ride around atop Akamaru more than you ever walk. I don't think you have much of a case to complain about Sai's jutsu, Niji stated flatly as he walked off to search in his selected area. It's best we just do what we can. It is important that we at least find something to go on before we are recalled. We can't give up, because I know that he wouldn't, Hinata said, sadly gazing at the memorial set up to honor Naruto. Kiba smiled. Yeah, and knowing him, he would just stumble upon our target out of sheer luck. Kiba laughed, knowing how upset the kunoichi was at the death of the young man that she had loved for such a long time. Naruto would also take his job more seriously than any of us. Perhaps that is why he was able to defeat enemies that seemed unbeatable. Regardless, it stands to reason that the longer we stand here discussing things, the less likely it becomes that we will find anything," Shino said. He too felt sorry for his teammate, but he was also a professional who believed that the mission came first so long as his comrades were not in danger. With Naruto, the blonde and Karin sat face to face on the floor of the giant cave. Several of the more intrigued snow leopards were watching the pair with interest, but these were mostly cubs. "So when summoning, there are 3 things you need do," Naruto began and quickly bit his thumb to draw a small amount of blood. "The first is a blood offering. The blood reacts with the blood that you signed the contract with, otherwise you won't sign anything, unless you have an unusually strong tie to a clan." Erosenin was summoned to Myobokuzen as a kid because he attempted summoning without a contract. "That can happen?" "I thought reverse summoning needed to be done by the summoned animals and needed different hand seals?" Karin asked in wonder. "Normally yes, but as I said, Erosenin had an unusually strong affiliation with the toads and he summoned himself there by accident. Anyway, I am getting off topic. The blood you draw reacts with the blood on the scroll that you signed and signals for the summoned creatures. The next thing you need to know is the hand seals. Now watch carefully," he said, and very slowly formed each seal in the chain while Karin watched intently, taking mental note of each one. "Then you find the right amount of chakra for the right summon, and then—" Naruto slammed his hands to the ground and a large puff of smoke appeared. When it cleared, Naruto was sitting atop a large dark orange toad wearing a dark blue shirt. "Yo bro, you called?" Gamakichi said, knowing who was sitting atop his head. "Yes, sorry Gamakichi. I'm teaching Karin how to summon and I needed a demonstration," Naruto answered, hopping off the toad's head. "Oh, sounds like fun. I might stick around and watch for a while. It's gotta be better than listening to Tatsu talk about snacks while the elders keep the lesser summons away from the well-connecting Myobokuzen and Konoha," the large toad said before in a puff of smoke it reverted into the size of a small toad no larger than Naruto's hand and hopped next to the blonde. Karin then recognized the small orange toad as one of the ones that saw her, almost naked the night before. "Oh, it's you," she said a little cooler than she had intended. She knew it wasn't the toad's fault that she had burst in on them enjoying the bath. "Hi, I'm Gamakichi, the son of the boss toad Gamabunta, and Naruto's personal summons. Pleased to meet you," the toad said with a friendly wave. "You have a personal summons?" Karin questioned. "Yeah, I'm not sure about everyone, but Tsunade-bachan had the slug queen Katsuyu, Erosenin had Gamaken, my father had Gamabunta, even Orochimaru had a personal snake summons. They have an advantage because not all summons will accept to help freely, some expect payment. Most of the toads listen to me as I am the summoner in charge of the summoning scroll and their sage. But Kichi's brother Gamatatsu still works for junk food, and I'm supposed to share a drink of sake with Gamabunta when I turn 18. Naruto explained. "So how do I get a personal summons?" Karin asked. To tell you the truth, I am not exactly sure. I think it's like a personal contract where the two come to an agreement. Kichi was the first toad I summoned, well, other than the boss toad," Naruto admitted. "Well, there were all those tadpoles, but she doesn't need to know that." "I see, and how do I know what the others will want as payment?" she continued. "They will usually tell you before they agree to fight for you. Normally it isn't anything major, although I seem to recall the boss snake summons, Manda demanding human sacrifices." Naruto shuddered at the end. "Seriously, Gigi, what were you thinking giving Orochimaru team a summoning contract like that?" he wondered. "Yes, I remember Manda. Orochimaru-sama once sacrificed some of our men to appease that giant snake. I half thought I was going to be the one sacrificed when he told me what was going to happen. It was terrifying," Karin admitted. "Yeah, that's why we don't get along with the Snake Clan, no regard for life at all. Toussaint is always talking about how he wants to turn Manda into a snakeskin wallet. I really want to see him do it too," Gamakichi said happily. "Well, I hope that the snow leopards aren't like that," Karin said hopefully. She was slightly pessimistic, however. "They have killed most if not all of the people that have made it this far north. It is possible that they would ask for something like a human sacrifice. I know I did that sort of thing for Orochimaru, but what would Naruto-kun think if I started doing that?" She thought, suddenly very worried. "It's hard to say. I know that Anko from Konoha also had snake summons, but hers were not as bad, but she was still somewhat sadistic. Damn crazy snake lady," Naruto said, subconsciously rubbing his cheek where Anko had once cut him to lick his blood. "Anko?" Orochimaru spoke of her once. She was his first apprentice. He hand-picked her out of the academy. But I guess in the end she too became another experiment. Karin sighed. "He ruined so many lives it makes me angry just thinking about it. We're wasting time talking about this stuff. Try summoning something. Now this requires quite a bit of chakra, so don't hold back. Naruto lectured. Alright, so I draw some blood, she said, biting down on the edge of her thumb, just hard enough to get a droplet of blood. Then I performed the hand seals, she said, and slowly ran through the seals at a slowish rate to make sure she got them right. When he hit the last seal, she placed her palms to the ground and a puff of smoke appeared. When it cleared, a small cub around the size of Gamakichi appeared. I did it, she cheered happily. Where am I? Oh, it's you. I guess you're learning how to summon us, huh? The small cub said in a rather prideful voice. Meanwhile, Naruto was slightly upset. Man, it took me ages to be able to summon something that could talk. I was getting nothing but tadpoles until I summoned Gamabunta, he whined. Well, snow leopards don't have tadpoles. I am one of the smallest of our talking summons, the cub replied. Karin, meanwhile, was seemingly caught in what would appear to be a moral dilemma. So cute, want a hug. So maybe she wasn't that much better than I was when I first tried to summon, Naruto said with a sigh of relief. Nah, you were pretty bad, bro. Gamakichi laughed. The blonde face vaulted in disappointment. I'm a good summoner, damn it, he pouted. It was at that moment he noticed Karin seemed to be frozen. Hey, is something wrong? You haven't moved since your first summoning, he asked, a slight hint of worry creeping into his voice. It's so cute, she half whispered in response, unaware that she was saying anything at all. Naruto and Gamakichi broke out in laughter, while the small summoned leopard looked somewhat disgruntled. I am a member of the Snow Leopard clan. We are not cute, the young leopard said indignantly, which suddenly broke Karin out of her trance. Are you kidding? You're downright adorable. I bet you would have half the Kunoichi population swooning over you. Hell, I would say that you could defeat most of them with a cute pout and allowing them to squeeze you. Gamakichi laughed. Oh, what would you know? I will not lower myself to such a level as allowing myself to be used as a stuffed toy, the leopard said, going red in the face from anger. Before the summons could act further, he was picked up by Karin and pulled into a hug. I think he's right. How could anybody fight against something this cute? She declared. I do not have to take this, the leopard said with some finality before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Once more Naruto and Gamakichi exploded in laughter while Karin pouted, upset that the small cub had gone. Alright, that was great for a first time, but we need to get you summoning the bigger cats. Let's go again. This time put more chakra into it, Naruto instructed. With a huff, Karin nodded and nodded, running once more through the hand seals. Konoha. Tsunade was never known as the most patient person in Konoha. In fact, it was quite the opposite. It had only been a few hours since she had found out that Naruto had faked his own death, and she was already itching to go out after him. Kakashi's plan was sound, however, and she knew that Naruto would never have done something like that for no reason. The Godane was currently heading to the new Hokage Tower. I guess it can't hurt to try and speed up the process of getting this sham of a funeral over and done with, so I will be allowed to leave and go after that idiot, she thought as she trudged down the once more busy Konoha streets. Store owners and passers-by alike would almost bow in reverence to her, as the former Hokage, one of Konoha's legendary three, and of course as the last surviving member of the Senju clan. There was Tenzo, however. He was a genetic clone of her grandfather, despite the fact that he looked nothing like the Shodai. Still, he was every bit a Senju. Good morning, Tsunade-sama. Shizen greeted her master and best friend as the Busta Senju entered the Hokage Tower. Shizen had continued working as Kakashi's assistant while Tsunade was in the hospital, and she saw no need to quit as she had some experience in forcing a Kage to do their paperwork rather than slack off. Good morning, Shizen. Is Kakashi in? Tsunade asked. I believe he arrived not too long ago. It seems as though becoming Hokage has not improved his sense of arriving anywhere on time, Shizen answered sadly. Good, then I will be going to see him. Oh, and make sure we're undisturbed, Tsunade replied. Shizen nodded. Kakashi-sama has no meetings planned this morning, so you should have any disruptions. Good. Oh, by the way, how has Sakura been coping with the hospital workload after the war? If you are working here, then she must be doing alright by herself, Tsunade asked. Sakura has been performing admirably. I think she has buried herself in her work as a means to escape the death of Naruto-kun and the Uchiha, Shizen said. She couldn't bring herself to say Sasuke's name. There was just no way that the Kunoichi could forgive him for killing the young man she considered a brother. Tsunade nodded in understanding and moved on, heading up the stairs towards Kakashi's office. She has a rather nostalgic smile on her face as she pushed the door open to what used to be her office. That smile was soon replaced by a scowl and a tick mark on her forehead, however, when she noticed Kakashi leaning back in his chair with a copy of one of Jiraiya's books out, looking for all the world to see, unashamedly interested in the smut. So even in here you can do nothing but read those damn books. You do realize that there won't be any more, right? She said, the scowl not leaving her face. Ma, you can never rule anything out in this world. I take it you wanted to see me for something? Kakashi replied lazily. I was wondering if you had set a date for Naruto's funeral yet. Sticking around here longer than necessary is not sitting well with me. That idiot could be anywhere by now. It's been months since the war, and that time he could have crossed the elemental nation several times over, especially if he was moving at full speed. Tsunade replied, I have taken care of it. I sent a message to the other Kages in the Land of Iron telling them that Naruto's official funeral will be held in 2 weeks. Last night, after receiving a progress report from Sai, I sent an order to recall his team from the field. They have been sent after Karin, the member of the Akatsuki that escaped from custody during the war. It seems they think she was hunting Naruto, so they are currently checking the scene of his fight with Sasuke. Kakashi informed the former Hokage. That's perfect. It will give me both a reason to travel to any of the 5 major nations, and a lead to go on. If that girl discovered that Naruto wasn't really dead, then chances are she is still looking for him as well. Still, she must have a death wish if she is actually intending to try and kill him. He's far too strong to be defeated by that girl. From the reports we took, her skills were scarcely higher than a genin, but she had amazing sensory skills. It's possible she was able to sense the difference between the Zetsu clone and Naruto, even if nobody else could. Tsunade concluded. That was my observation on the matter. Still, it seems unthinkable that she would have gone after Naruto. We saved her after Sakura attempted to take on Sasuke by herself. Sasuke had stabbed her in the chest, only just missing her heart. There is no way that she would go this far for Sasuke after something like that. She would have died had Sakura not been there. Kakashi said, his eyes not leaving his precious orange book. She's doing it for Sasuke's sake? The Godame questioned. It's the only possible explanation that crosses my mind. From the information we received from the Kunoichi during her imprisonment, it became clear that she was, or at least had been, highly infatuated with Sasuke. Ibiki and Inochi both concluded that those feelings had diminished significantly due to the violent end to their partnership, evidenced by her freely giving up information on Sasuke's skills and the location of one of the Akatsuki bases. If she is going after Naruto, though, it would seem that the information was wrong, and she is after revenge. Kakashi explained. So despite the fact that Sasuke stabbed her clean through the chest and the wound would have killed her had Sakura not been on hand to give significant medical attention, she still runs off after Sasuke. I must say she gives Kunoichi a bad name. Scratch that, she gives all women in general a bad name. It just doesn't make any sense. Tsunade thought out loud while taking a seat on the other side of Kakashi's desk. Kakashi nodded at the Busta Senju's assumption. I agree. But I highly doubt she would be chasing after Naruto based on loyalty to the Akatsuki. From what we have gathered, she was only there due to her loyalty to Sasuke in the first place. Regardless, she poses no real threat to Naruto, but she may be able to find him. In that case, all I have to do is find her first. I find Karin and I bet Naruto won't be too far away. If not, it will at least be a lead I can follow up on. Tsunade mused. Elsewhere, the late afternoon sun cast an orange glow over the barren landscape that was the site of Naruto's final fight with Sasuke. There was a distinct lack of shade caused by the trees having been either burnt to a crisp or simply blown away by the force of the 2 shinobi fighting. The team from Konoha had spent the entire day searching for any sign of Karin having passed through the area. However, the task was proving to be as difficult as finding a needle in a giant pile of different needles. There had been so many people pass through the area to pay their respects that tracks ran in every direction. It had also rained quite heavily at time in the months that had passed since Naruto's supposed death. Sai, who was still circling high above on his ink bird, was quite sure that they were not going to find anything, a sentiment shared by Kiba, Niji, and even Shino. Hinata, however, remained forcefully optimistic. She had to be. This was their last chance to catch a break and find a lead on the whereabouts of Karin. For this reason, Hinata kept heading further and further out from the site that Naruto and Sasuke's bodies were found in search of a clue. Just a little further, if I keep searching something will come up, she told herself in a form of self-denial. She had been searching a small patch of forest to the north when she stumbled upon a small clearing. It was uninteresting enough, save the uneven surface. It looked as though it had been dug up and reburied. What did catch her eye, however, was a single set of very fine scuff marks that looked like they may have been the remainder of footprints left in loose soil. Knowing some loose soil and a few aged footprints were nothing definitive, Hinata decided to investigate closer. Thanks to her training with Kiba and Shino, she was more than adequate at reading tracks, even old ones. Following the correct direction, Hinata deduced that whoever it had been that had passed the area had stayed for a while, and had knelt down on multiple occasions. She could also tell by the shape of the marks that it had been from a female. This had the young Hyuga excited. It was still a long shot, but it was possible that their target had come this way for whatever reason. At the end of the trail it appeared that the person, whoever it may be, headed west. I should go tell the others, Hinata thought, and turned back in the direction of the site of Naruto's fight with Sasuke. She had taken a few steps when a dull flash of burnt orange caught her eye. She stopped dead in her tracks. On a branch was a thin strip of cloth that she would recognize anywhere. It was part of Naruto's signature orange suit. It had been worn out in the weather, and was only a small piece of fabric, but she had no doubt on where it had come from. In the blink of an eye she was at the branch, and quickly removing the fabric that it had caught. On closer inspection she was positive that it was indeed Naruto's. There is no signs of the fight coming this far north, and the signs of distress on this branch indicate that he must have been highly exhausted when he passed this way. What does this mean? She asked herself, gripping the small piece of fabric close to her chest. Maybe the others will have some idea. With that final thought verbalized, Hinata took off at top speed back to the rest of the tracking team. When the Hyuga heiress arrived back where she had started her search that morning, she found the others all gathered around in a circle. "Oh Hinata, we were about to go look for you," Kiba said, waving her over. "I think I may have found something. It's not much to go on, but it may be a lead." Hinata replied happily, moving to join the others. "Unfortunately we won't be able to follow up on that, I am afraid. We have received a recall notice from Kakashi-sama. We need to head back to Konoha immediately, as the date for Naruto's funeral has been set in 2 weeks. Sai said blankly, "But I found something that we really should check out. Look at this," Hinata said, handing over the torn piece of orange cloth. The other shinobi's eyes widened. "Is that?" "I believe so. This is from Naruto-kun's jacket, but I found it caught on the branch of a tree that had been disturbed a decent way north of here. Near where I found that there was some footprints and handprints from a female. I think it was Karin's," Hinata answered quickly. The others looked somewhat skeptical at the Hyuga kunoichi. "How could you tell it was from Karin? It would have been months since she was here. There has also been heavy rains. It's highly unlikely that an open trail would be left behind," Sai said. "As for that section of Naruto's jacket, it could have blown there in the wind. I see no evidence that suggests that he was ever in that area," Niji added. "I know that, but I just have a feeling this is the path that we need to follow. It will lead us to Karin, I am sure of it," Hinata retorted fervently. Niji sighed and shook his head apologetically. "I am sorry, Hinata-sama. Our orders are absolute. You may give your theory to the team that is sent out to replace us, but we must return to Konoha. You wouldn't want to miss Naruto's funeral, would you?" Hinata looked torn. At this point, even if her hunch did turn into a solid lead, they had been called back to Konoha. Then there was the patch of Naruto's jacket. Aged or not, it was clear that it had not been wind that carried it there. She was filled with so many questions that had no answers. Silently she cursed, even returning. "If I had just spent more time researching for myself, then I could have a solid lead and maybe a few answers. I don't want to return just yet. I need to know what really happened here and where Karin is. She might know something about the reason Naruto-kun was so far north," she thought. Despite a head full of objections and reasons to stay behind, all she could muster to say in the end was, "Yes, Niji-Nizan, good. Now we still have a few hours of light, so we should make good use of that time and get as far south as we can," Niji said authoritatively. "Well, there's a village I heard about that's famous for its hot spring baths to the south. We should stop there," Kiba said with some enthusiasm. "Kiba, we are not on a vacation. Our orders are to return to Konoha as soon as possible," Shino suggested in his usual monotone drone. Surprisingly, Sai put his hand up to voice his opinion. "Actually, Shino, that sounds like a good place to stay for the night. I know the village Kiba is speaking of, and it will take us a few hours to get there. A night with some relaxation will help rejuvenate us for the remainder of the trip home. We will make for the village as Kiba and Sai suggested, but if we arrive with time to spare, then we keep moving. Kakashi-sama's orders were quite clear. We will not be spending excess time on relaxation," Niji reasoned. The group nodded, with Hinata barely listening or caring. Her mind was back north trying to put together the rather unique puzzle that had been laying out for her. However, when the others started to move, she followed. "Snow Leopard Cave. Damn it! I have been doing this for hours and I haven't summoned anything larger than an adolescent cub. I'm exhausted," Karin whined. Naruto, for his part, was not all that interested. He was finally experiencing how Jiraiya must have felt when training him how to summon toads. Karin was doing nothing wrong. She simply lacked the experience of how much chakra she would need to summon one of the larger leopards. Still, he had said he would help, so he stayed around while sending clones out to train in the mountains and scout the area. At the moment, however, he was playing cards with Gamakichi, something that didn't go down particularly well with the red-haired Kunoichi. "Are you even listening to me?" she asked with a tick mark forming on her forehead. "Yeah, exhausted, been at it for hours," Naruto mumbled before looking up from his cards. "Got any threes? Why would I tell you, we're playing poker. Hey, a summons is supposed to obey their summoner, not when they're playing cards. I don't see any life-threatening situation here, so you're on your own." Gamakichi laughed but then paused when he saw the expression on Karin's face. Well, that might be kind of dangerous," the toad mumbled. "Huh?" Naruto questioned, turning around to see what Gamakichi was talking about. Karin was red in the face with anger. "Don't ignore me in favor of your toad," she yelled, clearly upset. Naruto jumped to his feet and quickly started apologizing, completely oblivious to Gamakichi leaning over to check what Naruto's cards were. "Oh sweet Kami. Yo Naruto, I fold. I better get going too. San is probably wondering where I am anyway. See ya, boss." "Ah man, you went and chased him off." The blonde sighed. Karin simply huffed in response. "Good, it's not like he was doing anything productive," she said moodily. Her expression then did a 180, and she seemed quite happy again. "I'm too tired to attempt to summon again today. Why don't we head back and grab something to eat? You can even have the bath first," she chirped. "Ah, that might be for the best. It would be a bother if you get too exhausted." "Oh, and you don't need to worry about letting me have the bath first. Nemea has prepared a new room for me to stay in with my own hot spring, so we don't have to share anymore. So you will get your bed to yourself again. Thanks for letting me share last night. I know it must have made you uncomfortable." Karin's enthusiastic smile faltered somewhat, but Naruto put it down to an unpleasant memory of having to share a bed with him. "No, it's alright. It was only for one night in the end," she mumbled. "That's right. I forgot that he was going to be given a new place to sleep. We can still eat together. It doesn't make sense to split up the food when we will only be here a few more days," she said, her previous enthusiasm returning to cover up her disappointment. Naruto smiled and nodded. "Sure, that sounds like a good idea. Seeing as you don't know where my new place is, I'll show up in a few hours for dinner." "Sounds great, see you then," Karin replied before running off back to her cave. "It almost feels like a real date, having a boy come over and cook dinner together," she thought with a blissful smile. It had been too long since Karin had felt that way, but she knew she had to be careful not to fall back into her old fangirl habits.